everybody, and welcome to Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 is one of my favorite first-person shooters ever made. And today, I want to walk around a handful of its levels and explore, checking out the details, the design, and rambling a bit about the game. So, Team Fortress 2 was released in 2007. I played it on the Xbox version of the Orange Box. The Orange Box, which was a collection of 5 Valve games created by the studio Valve. This is a spawn point for the red team. The teams are red and blue. And here we have some coat racks and such for items of the various characters. We also have a sultry calendar here with a lovely woman adorned in red to match the color scheme of the red team. And this is the map to Fort, which is a capture the flag map. And red base is themed around farmers structure, happy farmers cooperative. Now, this is, here we can see one of the cows of Happy Farmers Cooperative. Although if we look closer, we can see that the cow seems to be a piece of wood, not a real cow. The aesthetic of Team Fortress 2 is sort of 20th century spy tech, gadgets and sort of light-hearted spy thriller type of design. It's a very stylized world. And so the two enemy teams, red and blue, they are often engaging in sort of silly subterfuge type things like those wooden cows. Because the whole Happy Farmers Cooperative, or whatever it was called, association or something, is just a cover story for the real Red Enterprise, which is underground here. support concrete ceilings. Computers and data tapes. Tapes lining this wall on shelves in here. The aesthetic is pretty fun. This is the flag, as it were, to be captured. Top secret intelligence briefcase. You have to infiltrate the enemy base and bring the briefcase back to your base. Here we have some large control room or monitoring room with a map of the globe covered in red circles. What could those be? What could those be? Reminiscent of missile impact sites or something. Here we have some more consoles, some plugs and an outlet in the wall. That's funny. These cords, these wires, are just plugged from one outlet right into another outlet. Very silly. Sort of a conference room area up here, encased behind bulletproof glass. The characters, we won't really see them in this video because I'm walking around by myself. But the characters all are mercenaries of various kinds. We are playing as the sniper. You can see my character portrait in the bottom left corner of the screen. He is an Australian assassin, capable of taking long-range shots with his sniper rifle. He is as patient as he is deadly, and is perfectly capable of lying in wait in a vantage point for hours or even days on end, filling up mason jars with his bodily waste, as shown in a promotional video released by Valve. In a later update, those mason jars of urine would become a weapon usable by the sniper. This route leads down to a sort of a pipe system leading out into a river outside. These underground areas serve as additional means of exit and entry into either team's base. I've played Team Fortress 2 quite a lot in my life, and most of the time that I played it was on the Xbox 360, playing the orange box. The orange box never received any of the content updates that the Steam version of Team Fortress 2 received. And so it always has remained the basic, unaltered version of the game. And I have played quite a bit of Team Fortress 2 on Steam as well. And I do enjoy all of the extra weapons and abilities and stuff, the other maps and whatnot. But the basic version of the game will always be very special to me. It's just so tightly tuned. So now we are in the blue base. The blue base. And blue stands for Builders League United. Red stands for Reliable Excavation Demolitions, I believe. And here in the blue base, the layout is identical to the red base. This map is mirrored, so both teams have identical bases. Although the designs are different, the aesthetics are different. Happy Farmers Cooperative. In addition to the sniper class, there are 8 other character classes you can play. There is the heavy weapons guy, who uses a minigun as his primary weapon. The soldier, who uses a rocket launcher. This is interesting. The river, or canal rather, here is drained, although the section within the map is not drained. And the canal beyond is still flowing with water. There is also the demo man, who uses grenades and sticky bombs. The scout, who is a fast character capable of double jumping. The pyro, who wears a fire retardant suit and wields a flamethrower. There is the spy, who can go invisible and disguise himself as members of the other team. The medic, who can heal his fellow teammates. And the engineer, who can construct autonomous turrets to attack enemies, along with other contraptions. Here we are on the map Dustbowl. Dustbowl. Taken Dustbowl is a 3-stage map leading you from the mine shaft where the attacking team begins all the way through 3 different stages, eventually ending up at a rocket facility. We are here at stage 1, at the very first control point, but we can see the rocket off in the distance, and if the attacking team is successful, they will eventually end up over there. But for now, this rocky crag in the ground crevice is the opening area. The blue team charges out of those tunnels in an attempt to capture the first control point. We have a water tower high above, and a fence blocks the way to this mine shaft, which is apparently deadly for one reason or another. Perhaps prone to collapses. And let's check out this area a bit more. Here we have some pickups, a health pack and an ammo pack. These are large pickups, but smaller versions of those pickups can be found throughout the maps. And over here we have the first control point, a small red shed. But let's return to the mine shaft where the blue team begins. We have these supply closets which fully restock your health and ammo. Those can be found in spawn points for either team, allowing you to return to your spawn to fully replenish your capabilities if you wish. And there are 3 exits to this mine shaft. We will follow this arrow, which points us to one of them. And a very rickety bridge above us with a ladder. This whole operation seems quite rickety. Warning, unsafe structure. Well, if it's unsafe, I suppose we don't want to be down here, do we? We can see a mine cart off in the distance down that shaft. And let's follow this mine cart rail. And we have another blocked off tunnel here. But we can also emerge. And the maps of TF2 are very well designed for gameplay. in a situation like this, you have this side tunnel, which allows you to get sort of a flanking position on some of the defenders. If they are blocking off the first two exits too well. And you can circle all the way around here. And once you capture the first control point, you have 3 more doors to choose from. So let's take this upper route. There are more minecart rails on this side. The mining aesthetic of Dustbowl is confined to the first stage. Here we can see the main arena of the second control point, which is in that shed over there. And let's talk a little bit as we wander about some of the design decisions made by Valve when designing Team Fortress 2. They have a director commentary feature in Team Fortress 2, which gives you some insight into their design decisions, and I find it very interesting. So, for example, one thing they talk about, although it isn't relevant on this map, because this is an attack and defend map where it can only end in victory for one side or the other. But in other maps where you're fighting over a neutral control point, they talked about how they consider a stalemate to basically be a loss for both sides. And they wanted to avoid stalemates wherever possible. They wanted to minimize the number of stalemates in the game. And so, how they did that was by including a number of features that served to accelerate a team that was winning. They have some positive reinforcement loops in terms of doing well. So for instance, if you are playing well, you're more likely to receive critical hits, meaning your weapon attacks do more damage. So if you're doing well, you're more likely to continue doing well. And then from a team perspective, the team that is winning receives slightly shorter respawn times, and I think maybe even closer respawn locations. And so this means that once you get some momentum as an attacker, you are more likely to win. You know, there's more things going in your favor than the other teams. Loading dock delivery benefits are not so large as to make it impossible to come back from a losing position. But it provides just enough additional momentum to help ensure that games rarely end in stalemates. I want to check out the map well after this, so we'll see that more, or that's more relevant to a map like that, which could end in a stalemate, unlike Dustbowl. So here we are in stage 2 of Dustbowl. We see some more of these subterranean bases fitting into that 20th century, 60s spy thriller sort of vibe, with some missiles down there. And this is the spawn area for blue team. And when the match starts, oh, and it's kind of fun, this is the previous spawn area for the red team. Behind that fence was the old control point that we just captured right there. But now in stage 2, it becomes the launching point for the attackers. Another interesting design trivia fact about Team Fortress 2 is that originally, or at some point in the development process, Valve constructed TF2 as having a commander role. Basically, a real-time strategy player type of person who was managing fortifications, supply drops, building buildings, stuff like that. They weren't running around as a character, they were managing things on a strategy level. And they talk about it in the developer commentary, that the design decisions, the design implications of that idea just became too unwieldy. And they ended up scrapping it. But I think I've talked about this before, but one of the things that I admire about Valve's game design is that they are very willing to drop things that aren't working. The designers have talked about how it can be a little, I guess, emotionally taxing to design a game at Valve in some ways, because you get attached to an idea you have, you think it's a great idea, and then playtesting shows that it isn't working the way you hoped, and boom, it gets cut, or you have to revise it, or whatever. So, that is what I think is one of the reasons that Valve games are so good. They bring in frequent playtesters. They playtest things a lot and are unafraid to make significant changes based on what they're learning from the playtesters' experiences. I'm trying to think, but if I remember correctly, also, this is just a random little, oh, let's read this. Ballinger Pest Control Specialist, Rodent Control Station number 7. Do not damage or remove. And then down here we have a little rat hole. Maybe there's a trap in there, I don't know. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the idea of the commander warning men working. The idea of the commander, I believe I encountered that again in one of the Battlefield games. Was it Battlefield 4 maybe? I seem to recall in one of the Battlefield games they had this, this was back when like second screen experiences, they were called, you know, trying to integrate your phone or your tablet into a TV show or a game was very popular. I remember a bunch of things like that. Back when I was watching shows on AMC, they had like Mad Men and The Walking Dead and stuff. I remember for a while they were doing stuff like, hey, when you're watching the new Walking Dead episode tonight, pull up your mobile phone and have it open next to you, and you can answer quizzes and polls and stuff like that. Yeah, as if looking at one screen wasn't enough. They were trying to give us, just trying to worsen all of our attention deficit problems. But anyway, I'm pretty sure it was Battlefield 4, but I could be wrong. They had this thing you would do on your tablet where you could play a sort of commander role in the game. I don't remember exactly what it was that you did. Probably, you know, controlled vehicle resupplies or whatever, I don't know, but I remember that being a thing. I think it was Battlefield 4. More recently, I know that that feature was done to some degree of success, as I understand it, with, oh, what's that World War II game called? Something Hell, right? I didn't play it, but I heard a lot about it. I knew it was very popular, and still is. Hell Let Loose. Hell Let Loose, I believe that's what it's called. It was, you know, it is a squad-based game with lots of players on the map and a whole battle front line and resupply system and stuff going on. So, that one, as part of that whole architecture, has a general or something that controls certain, you know, bonuses and features like calling in airstrikes or whatever. Reliable excavation demolition. red. Team Fortress 2 has great character design. Maybe not the best place to talk about it because I can't show you the characters playing solo, but they talked about in their design philosophy, they talked about having a hierarchy of information that they wanted to be immediately available to anybody who was looking at a character in the game. So the first thing on the hierarchy, the most important thing, also we're at stage 3, by the way. The most important thing to know at a glance when you look at a player is what team they are on. So this is where the color coding comes in, with the blue team and the red team. They obviously have their blue and red colors, but they also use cooler tones on the blue team and warmer tones on the red team. So it's just immediately obvious what team a person is on. We have a wide red desert prairie sort of thing out there. We might be somewhere on the Colorado Plateau, I don't know, somewhere in the American Southwest. A long train. The second most important thing in the hierarchy was what class the person is playing. So you want to know if they're a heavy, if they're a spy, if they're a scout, if they're a demo man, and so on. And so they did this primarily with the silhouettes of the characters, making them have very distinctive silhouettes, postures, making it as easy as possible to, in a fraction of a second, just instantly recognize what class a certain character is. Some more missiles down here underground, perhaps capable of being loaded into that rocket, which we are making our way towards now. This is a long circle around path, giving you a chance to get behind the defenders. The third thing on the hierarchy they talked about is what weapon the character is using. So from most important to least important, they wanted you to know first what team a person was on, second what class they're playing, and third what weapon they are using. And I remember them talking about how they designed the characters so that the eye is drawn to their chest area, which is where they hold their weapons. For instance, by making their feet and legs very dark and, uninteresting color-wise and contrast-wise, so that the eye is drawn more to the colorful, bright sections of the chest. We have some more consoles here, an intercom, some kind of radar display pinging things in the surrounding area. Lots of these little mechanical devices, electronic panels and such. We have a little bunker here with a sight line of the alley that the attackers must approach through. They talked a lot about, in the commentaries, they've also talked about having numerous approaches to any given area, so that if the defenders have heavily locked down a certain spot, the attackers can seek out alternate methods of approach. And usually these will have a cost associated with them, such as a longer travel time, for instance. But this whole alley here, you can see all these positions, defensive positions. It's one, simple path in its basic layout. You just walk through the alley, but it has this whole snaking network of tunnels and hallways and passages and little dead-end rooms and such all around, creating a gameplay space that allows for, a lot of interesting interactions. It's also interesting, I just saw there they had a small health pack, but a large ammo pack. Makes you think about their design decisions in terms of what size of pickup are they putting in certain areas. So for instance, in that spot, I would imagine they made that choice because it is a very defensible position, and so they don't want the defenders to be able to heal too easily. And so they only added a small ammo pack, but they want the defenders to be able to keep up a steady defensive pressure, and to do that they ensure that they don't run out of ammo by giving them a large ammo pack. Just my thought, based on, why those particular pickups are there. If I ever designed a game, which I have no intention of doing, but I think I would use these Valve developer commentaries as a Bible for it. So here we are on the map, well, and we will start here in the resupply room of the blue team. These are the spawn points for the teams. They're like locker rooms. And over here we can see the little lockers of all of the characters. We have the pyro here with their flame retardant suit and their little flower print handbag. And that was a funny thing back in the day. People were, is the pyro a man or is the pyro a woman? And people saw that flower handbag and they were like, oh, the pyro has to be a woman. The pyro's secretly a woman. It was just one of those little gameplay mysteries, I guess. One of those things that got people talking back in the day. The engineer's helmet, the sniper's hat, some band-aids and a stethoscope for the medic, the spy's suit to the left, the scout's headset, the soldier's helmet is also to the left there. The demo man's body armor. The heavy weapons guy, his bandolier of bullets. And I guess his boots as well, with his socks strewn about. I love the heavy little chicken legs that he runs around on. And then we just have the same lockers duplicated here. Some towels. A resupply closet. And another sexy calendar woman. This time the blue team's version. In her thigh-high heel boots. But we will move on from the locker room here. And just as in Dustbowl, the bases both on this map each base has a rocket. So this is Blue's rocket. And behind it we have some consoles. We've got the engines down here, the thrusters rather. The rocket sticking all the way up into the sky. So this map is a capture and defend map. Each team has 2 control points at the start of the match. And then the central control point is neutral. And the teams can continually push back and forth into the other team's bases until it ends in victory for one side or a stalemate. So the discussion we had earlier about the developers wanting to avoid stalemates is particularly relevant on this map. We have more consoles here, they're glowing buttons. And as we make our way away from the rocket, you will see a similar shift in the aesthetic. Away from this high-tech to surroundings to a mundane, industrial environment, leaning into the aesthetic of Team Fortress 2, where these organizations are concealing their secret programs with, business fronts, basically. And in the blue base here, we have some sort of industrial structure, boilers on the wall there, and more boilers in this room. This large empty room with some boilers along the walls. Be cool to go in there and check it out. And we are on the highest level of this structure right now. So we can make our way down the ramp here, following this exit sign. And this is a sniper position if we wanted to look out those windows there. But let's continue in deeper instead. So the capture point is just below us in that little room. So we'll walk down these stairs, up these stairs, so that you can see some more of this spy type of aesthetic. We have a corkboard, another sexy calendar, and here a door labeled Top Secret, Top Secret. So just that kind of heightened 60s espionage thriller sort of stylization. It's all throughout Team Fortress 2. And if we come down here, we can see this control point. So here we have a tunnel of water. This is a one-way tunnel that leads you out to this area. You can also continue swimming directly into that central structure, which is where the central control point is. And this is one of the examples they used about making high-cost alternative routes to circumnavigate strongly defended positions. Because it is slower to swim than it is to walk. And so, if the defenders have that building locked down really well, you can swim underneath, which costs you a little bit more time, but then gets you in behind the defenders. The blue base here, emitting smoke from its smokestacks. One of the insights from the developer commentary is also there's a lot of trains around here, and you'll see there are trains that actually move through the play area. And whoa, that was a close one. Give you a little fact about those trains later, but what I was saying was, initially, in their playtesting, they had designed the control points such that if you were kicked off of the point, all the progress that you had made in capturing the point was immediately lost. They found, however, that this made capturing points too difficult in certain circumstances, and also encouraged solo players to not try to secure point progress if they didn't think they could fully capture it. This is the water entrance if you swim into the building, but we can swim out as well. So to encourage more aggressive gameplay and to encourage more successful captures, they made it so that progress on capturing a point lingers for some time, even after you get off the point. So, we can come up here and capture this control point, and then move on into the red base. Alright, wandering around for a minute here. I guess I'll tell you my favorite classes. I am not a sniper player. I'm only doing sniper for this because I can zoom in with his scope to look at details in the distance. But I was not a sniper player when I played this game. There were a few classes that I liked. I really enjoyed Demo Man and Medic. Those were probably my two mains. If I had to pick one class, it would be the Demo Man. But I would also, I loved playing them all. Except for there's a couple that I didn't really play ever. I was not a sniper. Oh, also I like how this red base is a distillery. Its, cover, its front is a distillery. Let's see if we get a better look at that from up here. Smokestacks have the color scheme here of the red base. The warm brick. Red Shed Distillery. Red Shed Distillery since 1934. Yeah, I never played sniper, like ever. And I rarely played scout, very rarely. And I would say I similarly, very rarely played soldier. Red versus blue. This is a funny little billboard here. Just putting that on the billboard like that as, as part of your map design is just an interesting choice. Red billboard over there. Red versus blue. Of course, we're not talking about the Halo Machinima series here. So yeah, the little factoid about the trains, I'll tell you, is they have two different train models. The big train goes into goes into that little shed there, and that train right there is actually, I believe, a 1/16th model of the train. 1/16th scale, if I remember correctly. But they swap out the player-sized model when it enters that little shed. So that's when they make the transition, when it's hidden in the shed, because all of the background stuff to save on, processing cost is all 1/16th scale. So let's go ahead and enter the distillery of Red Base here. Red Base. I like the red team color scheme and aesthetics more. Part of that, I think, is because red was sort of the, I don't know, I guess you'd call them the main characters in all of the videos that Valve released about this game. They released these fun animations. Quite a handful of them. Some of them were introducing you to the various characters, and some of them were just little stories. But it was always the red team that was kind of focused on as the characters in those shorts. And blue team would get, killed every time. But I also just like the color scheme of the red bases more. I love the warm red wood, the brick. It's more comforting, homey than the sort of industrial steel cool tones of the blue bases. Those chalkboards are a common asset in this game, covered in complex equations and variables and numbers. Yawn. They talked about having sniper roosts, and how they frequently have sniper roosts that are facing another sniper roost, so that snipers can kind of counterplay each other. Old geezer draft beer. Old geezer draft beer. They talked about designing sniper positions with lots of cover for the sniper, but also, cover for people approaching, and alternate routes for them to avoid the sniper entirely. One thing they talked about with the sniper design, making him as a class, was the charge up ability on the sniper. We have a large distillery room here. Looks pretty cool. The sniper in this game, the weapon, when you scope in with it, you'll notice a little lightning bolt on the right side, and a meter that slowly fills up. And the higher that meter is, the more damage the shot does. And they did this because they didn't want quick scopers or no scopers to be a contingent in Team Fortress 2. They wanted the sniper to play like a sniper, Wait in high vantage points with good views, and patiently wait for the shot. So, to encourage that, they made his shots relatively weak, unless you scope in for a few seconds and give it time to charge up. So you can make quicker, weaker shots, or slower, more deliberate, more powerful shots. So now we have passed through the distillery into the rocket chamber of Red Team. The mirror image of the blue team's rocket. So, come out into this room here. We see an identical site, except the color scheme is all swapped out. It's interesting. The hero shooter genre has become quite popular. There was, of course, Overwatch, which was the massive one, although Overwatch 2 has lost a lot of the good graces of the fan base. I was a big fan of Overwatch for a while, but I've never played Overwatch 2, and I have no interest in doing so. Largely because I was turned off by, Blizzard's decisions around it and such. I won't go into that here, but all I was saying was that, hero shooters have become quite popular. Maybe not as huge as they were when Overwatch was big, but, we've had Marvel Rivals relatively recently, and that was a very popular game. Still is, I believe. I played that for a bit. Had a lot of fun with that one. But yeah, then you had, of course, Concord recently, which was a massive flop and kind of dunked on by the whole gaming community. It's just interesting, going back to a game from 2007, TF2, which I feel like really set the bar for what a hero shooter should be. This, to me, just got so much of it right, and I haven't kept up with the Steam version of the game. I know that for a while people were pretty frustrated with it about hackers and bots, or mainly just bots, I think. But I don't know where that ended up, if it's sort of playable and enjoyable again, or if it's kind of dying or dead. I'm sure there's still people playing it. It's TF2 after all, but I'm curious the state of TF2 on Steam. If any of you are TF2 players on Steam, please drop a comment and let me know what it's like these days. Is the player base still thriving? They're not updating the game, right? I think I would have heard if they were doing any big content updates. I don't think they have for a long time. But anyway, I will end it there. We've explored 3 maps from Team Fortress 2. And I think I would love to come back someday and check out a few more, because I have so much fondness for this game and love for this game. But until next time, my friends, please take care of yourselves, and I will do the same. Goodbye. Goodbye.